Hello and welcome to the SNC podcast. I am your host, Folashade Anozie. Joining me on the show today is Amanda Uzoagba. She's an entertainment and intellectual property lawyer, creative business consultant, and educator. She's also a senior legal executive at EbonyLife Limited. Amanda is passionate about empowering creatives and entertainers about their intellectual property rights, and she drives a lot of these conversations through her social media platforms. Amanda is also the award-winning author of Let's Dance, which is a deep dive into the dance industry. She's the founder of the TheCreator podcast, and she's the co-host of the Legal Avenue podcast. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hi, Folashade.
First of all, I had to say thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's a rainy day. You could have been drinking tea.
I could have been chilling.
I know. And you got here early and, we're still setting up. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to say happy belated World International Property Day. I think it was last week.
Last week.
Yeah, April 26th, Abby.
Yes.
And the theme of the show, the theme of World IP Day was women and IP and accelerating creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
And as an enterprising woman and entertainment lawyer who's, as I said in my intro, is doing really great work to empower creatives and entertainers, I celebrate you and I applaud you for all your amazing work.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, now you are an entertainment lawyer, but before you became an entertainment lawyer, you were working as a blogger and you were deeply interested in the media and entertainment space.
Yeah.
Now I want to know, when did your interest in law start? Was it before you became a blogger, or was after, or maybe it was during your experience as a blogger that you now said, I actually want to go down this legal path?
Okay, so I became a blogger in uni. So I was already a law student when I became a blogger. So when I was doing it, I didn't really put it side by side with entertainment law. Entertainment law wasn't a big deal back then. When I was a student, it wasn't a thing that students could discuss as an area of law. It's either corporate or litigation, and that was it. So when I was doing it out of passion because I wasn't sure if I wanted to practice law yet. I was sure that I wasn't a big fan of litigation. But I was like, okay, corporate or something in the media. I've always been attracted and drawn to the media and entertainment space. So then it was when Lindy KG vlog started raining very well. Yeah. Yes. My mom was like, you can be a blogger too and make a lot of money. Yes. So that's when I started blogging. Process of blogging, I got into the media and entertainment space. They're doing PR for record labels and all that. So I did that on its own, trying to understand my path in life, whether I was going to do law or I was going to be a media practitioner. But by the time I finished law school, finished NYSC, and I started looking deeply into, okay, yes, you might want to practice law, find a comfortable area of law for you, something that will mix with your passion so you could enjoy. Because one thing that was very important to me growing up and going through my journey is finding something that I love. So I don't feel frustrated or feel like, I'm just going through this cycle because I need to make money in adulthood. Do you get? So by the time I came out during that small phase of NYSC and finding a job, that's when I discovered entertainment law.
Okay. That's really good.
Exactly. So I was like, this is the best thing that could happen to me. This is law and entertainment I obviously love. So let's get it.
So why did you now choose to stop blogging? Because you could have still been doing that on the side.
Yeah, so sincerely, I stopped blogging because I didn't want it to affect my law school. So law school was a lot and blogging was a lot. So blogging, you need to be on your toe, the news. Your blog doesn't need to be lacking behind. Yeah. And back then, you're looking at this person, looking at that person, you're gathering news and all of that. And when I entered law school, I tried finding someone that would do it, but I couldn't find someone that would do it as well as I was doing it. So the plan was just pause it for 1 year, focus on law school, pass that hurdle, because this is a journey I already started 5 years ago. So it won't make sense that I'm now putting it at risk because of blogging. So I was like, okay, I can always come back to this, pause it first, and then finish law school. But then law school started, finished, life just kept going from law school, court to bar. Next to your parents are like, so what are you doing in your life?
Time to get married.
Do you understand? Yeah. So it wasn't something like I chose to say, okay, I'm stopping, I'm done blogging. It was supposed to be a pause and come back. But I never found my way back. I found something better. Let me put it that way.
That's great.
Yes.
And I know that you had read your story about how you got your job at EbonyLife.
Yeah.
And you said it took you 3 tries.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that you were happy that they didn't take you on the first try. Mm-hmm. Can you share a bit about that?
So I'm more of a media person than a law person. So by the time I was done with NYSC, I looked at my CV. I had a lot of media experience and non-legal experience. Like, think about it. I've done a lot of things outside the legal space. But then when you come to like finding a job and all of that, so I was like, okay, let me see if I could find something still in the media space. So when I approached the whole EbonyLife work the first time, I saw it as a pathway to get into maybe TV presenting and other areas of media. So I can remember vividly during one of my interviews, they asked me, I should ask them any question they have. I think like that question I asked them is a low for them. Like that's the main reason why they didn't employ me. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I was like, okay, so as a lawyer, if sometimes there's nobody on set or TV presenter is late, can they ask you to step in and do the job? So I left.
They were like, this wants to be in front of the camera.
I left asking questions about what they were going to employ me to do. And I was really looking like, okay, this could be another way out or way into this. So when I look back at the journey, I'm like, okay, thank God I actually didn't do that because it gave me room to find entertainment law. Then I didn't see it as anything.
Yeah.
But looking back at my journey, I'm like, even me, I won't hire me. Like, are you serious about this or not?
But some people would like encourage that because they're like, oh, she's a lawyer, but she also has an interest in this, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess some companies, they just want you to
some companies just,
yeah.
That's one thing I admire about my company. Like, your JD is strict. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. There's no, tomorrow you're doing law and social media. No, you're doing this. It's clear what you're doing in the company. So I think I needed that. Because within my journey, I still did TV presenting. And as at 2019 entering 2020, I was like, okay, I'm done. I've done that. I've scratched that itch, if that's a thing. And I'm done. Now it's time for me to focus on law. Yeah.
And you had talked about some of the things that you had. Like, I think you said when you left that interview, you realized that you needed to empower yourself and become more involved in the legal space. Can you talk about some of the things that you actually did to empower yourself?
Okay, so that wasn't like an immediate
awareness.
It was like a 6 months thing because I went home and then the rejection as well as some other ones came in and I was like, okay, so I need to, if the job is not coming, I need to create it for myself. So all this while, back when I was a blogger and everything, I did it for myself till they came. So I have to at least put my leg out. I understand that I don't have so much legal experience, so I don't even blame them for not looking my way. So let me give them the reason to know that I know my stuff. So that was what was behind my mind. So literally what I did was, that was the period I found out about entertainment law. Even while I was interviewing, I just, like when I interviewed EbonyLife first, I just knew it was corporate practice, in-house law. I didn't know there was a thing like entertainment law. So it was within that 6 months break that I found out there was a thing like entertainment law. So I started reading a lot of articles, online contents. I reached out to Akiemi. I swear to you, tomorrow we always crack up about that. I reached out to you, told you how I was about to leave law and every reached out to him. I told him, okay, so this area of law that I found interesting and I would like for you to mentor me. Then there was this other lady, Juliana. She works with WIPO now. Okay. She has mad content. That was the first time I was being introduced to music publishing, music licensing. I consumed her videos. Then there's this guy on YouTube, Gordon Firemark. He has a lot of content around entertainment law. So I was on it back to back. I think I consumed a lot of content and a lot of online information to the point that they start contradicting themselves. So that's when I always tell people, consume as much as you can till it gets to the point that you're contradicting yourself. Like what you read here and what you read there doesn't add up. Then you're now going to the field and find out the answer. So whenever I got to that point, I then reach out to lawyers and like, okay, in this type of situation, what do I do? So I think I was a bit too bold because if I think back now, if I was being cautious, most things I did to like come out as an entertainment lawyer and empower myself, I would have just studied, learned, and then go backwards and start applying for jobs. I didn't do that. Yeah. Within a month, I put out a flyer that was doing free contract review for people. Wow. And this was literally 2 months 1 month into saying I'm going to entertainment law practice.
Yeah.
So I was literally learning. This is something that
job.
most people don't know. I was literally learning as I was reading your contract. So this is because I wasn't getting the jobs. I know the industry. I understood the industry. I've been in the industry, but the legal aspect of it, I hadn't at that point. I hadn't gotten the opportunity to actually learn on the field. So I was.
Yeah.
So after I did that and I got people to come in, I was still learning. So sometimes if I go through a contract that something is confusing, I'll reach out to a lawyer and like, so this is the fix. I mean, what do you think about this? So I did, I think 3 days or 5 days contract review and free legal advice. Like, come to me, whatever your problem is. Sometimes I just tell me your problem, I'm researching. I'm like, so what do I do at this point?
Yeah.
And I say it. And 2 months afterwards, I went on a media tour.
Wow.
So this was happening like within 4 months.
Yeah.
So I was learning and I was teaching. That's one thing I think helped me assimilate better. I was learning, I was creating content, I was passing the message. So entertainment law doesn't exist in the East, or as at then it didn't exist.
Because that's where you're coming from, the East, right?
I'm coming from the East. I grew up in Enugu.
Yeah.
I moved to Lagos, like, this is my 3rd year in Lagos. So I was coming from the East. I was in the East when I started practice. So I was like, okay, I have this little knowledge. If I start sharing it, it will seem a lot to these people. Do you get? So if I could package myself there, coming to Lagos and now saying, oh, this is who I am. It won't be like I'm trying to impose or say, the whole imposter syndrome, like, oh, you're not who you say you are. So doing that, the more tours I went on, the more I talked about it, the more I educated people about it, the more I understood it, the more I had the opportunity to actually put it into practice. So everything was happening simultaneously. I was learning, I was teaching. People online will see the contents I put out, like, oh, so this kind of thing happens. This is the way it happens. This is what I need to protect myself. They reach out to me and I do the job. I was getting the 3 of them all at once without having to separate, oh, let me learn now and come back later and do this and do that.
I love that. So obviously lessons of empowering yourself. Don't just sit down and cry and say the world hates me. And obviously the importance of strategy. You're very strategic.
Empowering yourself is like the main thing, because it got to a point that I now start getting DMs from other lawyers, some of them law firms, oh, we have an opening. Strangely, the other 2 times that I tried that with EbonyLife was not me just popping up at seeing a vacancy. My present head of department now, the 2nd time, reached out to me via Instagram. I was like, oh, I see what you're doing as an entertainment lawyer. I admire it and all of that. There's an opening. If you're interested, apply for it. So if I hadn't empowered myself, if I hadn't put myself out there, I won't have been able to tell them, this is what my worth is, this is what I can do, and then the jobs kept coming.
Yeah, that's amazing, Amanda. Thank you for sharing that story, and I hope it encourages someone who's watching or listening, Now, you obviously talked about how you were working as a PR person for record labels. Now, we hear lots of stories about record labels using streaming farms to inflate, artist streaming numbers. And you also hear about them forcing artists down our throats through different mediums. But my question is, a lot of artists end up choosing to go independent. And when they go independent, they realize that maybe the love that I was receiving is not genuine and it's organic. And a lot of them are really shocked that wasn't I popular or popping, or wasn't my music embraced by lots of people? So I want to get your perspective and advice or thoughts for people who are on record labels, artists, and maybe they are new or they're inexperienced, or maybe they've been there for quite a while. How should they approach public relations? Should they put all their public relations strategy in the hands of the record label, or they themselves also have to take responsibility to say, how am I going to chart my public relations path in ensuring that I'm able to connect with people? Do you get what I'm trying to say? So if you could share your thoughts on that. So I
think both parts is like, the artists need to work with the record label. At the same time, they need to do something for themselves. Because what happens in the industry a lot is that you see artists hands off and say, oh, my label is going to do this. My label, and he's out there partying, or she's out there partying and doing other things. And then they have other artists. The sooner it doesn't, it's normal. If you see someone that is serious about themselves and they're working on themselves and they're putting themselves out there, you'll be happier to encourage the person than when the person is like, oh, when I put this out there, you guys should contribute, I just can't sleep. Your label will be like, oh, when you're serious, let me know. It's not me that will stress myself on top of something that you don't consider important to you. So I think the advice I would give artists as to PR and how the public perceives them and all that is work closely with your record label, and at the same time record labels listen to the artist. It has to be a two-way street, because then it's business. Most artists miss that part. They get sentimental about it. Oh, when I was on my own, you promised this, you promised me that, you promised that this will happen. It's business. Be realistic. Leave sentiment apart. Look at things, all the things they're promising you, all the things that you're going to get. Fine. That is that. But what can you give them back? It's a business. They're putting money, they have to get something back. So if they're telling you, oh, we need you to act like a bad boy, that's the image you want. Because that was a part of PR I was very involved in, working with the A&R department and also working with the media. So A&R department, you already know, those are the guys that prep, scouts,
get
them ready for the public. So, and one thing I kept noticing was there was no direct communication, or there was no clear communication as to what role that you are playing. So most times the artists that we see outside is a persona, is what they've packaged you to see, because that's what will sell the music faster. They are a product. Do you get? But then it's more like they're forcing it down on them, and that's why it's easy for them to report online, to be as if, oh, so what are we doing? So work closely. Both parties need to communicate and understand each other. At the same time, artists don't be so emotional. Artists are so damn emotional. Artists don't be too emotional. It's a business. Do you get? Yes, be emotional. It's your music, it's your talent, it's all that. But put that aside and do it as a business. This is what can sell. But at the same time, record labels should be able to give the artists options to be able to pick and be comfortable in the persona. Now, most of the artists, when they leave, the reason why it's hard for them is that most times the clout you get is because of the environment you're in. It's because of the crowd you go with. So if obviously you're signed under a certain record label that already has its own clout structure, whether you're good or you're not good, people that like that label automatically want to hear what you have to say. But the moment you're out, and it's obvious that you're out, it's now left on your talent. You need to prove that you can actually do it.
Shouldn't you have been proving that talent while you were there, so that's
what I'm saying. Some of them do, some don't.
Yeah.
So those that don't, or those that feel they've done it enough and they can stand on their own, they might be that talented, but talent can only take you
so far.
You need talent, you need money, you even need God's grace. There are a lot of things that come into play. So most times when they leave, they're like, most of them get overwhelmed at the bills and expenses. They're like, wait. I thought I just need to record music and that is all. No. Some of them I get overwhelmed about the whole streaming numbers. Yes, the streaming farms exist. Probably they do. I can't confirm or deny that. But definitely we know that all those streaming numbers are influenced by a lot of things, especially clouds. There are a lot of songs we listen to now. It's not as if we're listening to them because we like them, because of the artist, because of the label. So if you've not developed yourself up to that extent, and you're not standing on your own, and the worst thing, you're standing on your own and it's not clear that you left the label on a goodwill. It's like you're fighting with them. Do you understand? Yeah. So artists need to take PR more seriously. Understand that public perception is not like, oh, I am who I am, take me as I am. Yeah. You're a product. You're trying to get people to buy you. So while you're trying to get people to buy you, you need to convince them on why they should bank on you. Yeah. So you can be real 100, no problem. But at the same time, understand it's a business, you're smart about it. If you're with a record label, speak to them, understand the vision of the record label for you. There should be a two-way communication. At the same time, record labels listen to your artists because they are the ones that everybody will see. So if they are not on the same page with you, it's not going to work. Yeah. And if you decide to stand on your own, invest deeply into your person, not just your talent, you as an artist, you as a human being, because that will sell your music faster than your music. Yeah, because I was about to say, like, a lot of artists hate when you say that they're a product. They're like, I'm a human being, I don't want to be a product. But I guess they're intertwined. You're a product. It's like you're a product. You're selling something while you're selling. You have moments where you be a product, and you have moments where you be a human being. Yeah. When you're supposed to be a product, be a really good product. And when you have to be a human being, be a really good, relatable human being. I love that. Now, as a senior legal executive at EbonyLife, can you talk about what your work entails? Is it just strictly production? Is it just strictly... Can you just talk about what it is? So, EbonyLife Limited, although not officially known as EbonyLife Group, has a lot of companies under and is one legal department that oversees everything. So, we are into movie production, we're into school education with EbonyLife Creative Academy, we're into hospitality with White Orchid Hospitality, Turaka, EbonyLife Cinema, all of that. We are into I can't be skipping at this point.
It's okay. A
Also,
lot of things.
we're also into, will I say, distribution for movies and all of that. And we have other companies outside Nigeria. So the thing is, my day to day, when I joined the company, truthfully, between me and you, I thought it was just going to be movie production. I think when they give you a JD, actually read it to the last full stop. Don't assume things.
Yeah.
So when I came in, and then I had to learn on spot that my day to day doesn't just cover entertainment law. I do entertainment law, I do corporate, I do sometimes land related, hospitality. So my day to day as a lawyer has to do with contract drafting, contract reviewing a lot of contracts. And trust me, you can jump from production to insurance in 30 minutes, and you just have to switch in your brain that you're done with entertainment law. And then it has to do with clearance, third party. That's when we're into production. When you're into production, management of risks, legal risks that could come up. Oh, has this been done? Has that been done? Getting licensing, ensuring that, like I said, the hospitality part of business could be demanding certain licenses. You need to get certain inspections that need to happen and all of that. You need to always know it's on point, because Lagos State government don't joke. Like, they'll come and just stamp something in front of you, and when that happens, it's a serious issue. Do you get? So it has to do with that. So literally, that's my day-to-day EbonyLife work. It goes way beyond production. It goes way beyond even hospitality. There's a lot of things, like full corporate but in-house.
So do you do you sometimes go on set?
So
back to your point about sometimes do you?
So you're not needed to go on set. You could go on set, but we have busy the office get. We are not a large team. We're really little, like really good team. So we are almost always busy, especially doing production. Because even when you're not on set, a lot of things are coming in. Oh, this location just popped up. We need it. We need to send out these letters. We need to send out this agreement. We need to do this. We need to do that. So I've been opportunity to be on set, I think, once or twice. And it's beautiful. And it's something, if you find time to do it, go on set. But the issue is finding time to do it.
Yeah.
You're allowed to, but it's not like a must. You must not be there. Because there's always that communication between the team, the crew, and you.
Yeah. And just sometimes lawyers go on set and they're able to catch maybe an issue happening, and they're able to like put a stop to it quickly.
That's
the
very good, important reason why you need to go on set, because sometimes things come back after, and it's not like, oh, why didn't you tell us that this happened? Oh, this happened.
Exactly.
Oh, this vehicle that we leased our license, this happened. Insurance related issue. So yes, it's necessary, it's important that if there's a project, be on set as often as you can to see the things that are happening and trying to like avoid them from happening on the spot.
Yeah.
But most times we don't have time to do that.
Okay. Now, sticking with your job description, what are some of the clauses that you're seeing in contracts that maybe either creatives or actors are failing to pay attention to? Are there any that you're seeing and you're like, but it was in the contract? Like similar to what's about your JD. I didn't read it. Right? So are there some clauses that you're seeing that creatives and entertainers are failing to, or maybe even actors, are failing to pay attention to?
Within the film industry. Okay. So I would say the ones that are failing to notice, as well as the ones that you're trying to cost me my job.
No,
as well as
so
few of the ones that I've seen some include over time that could be beneficial to other actors. So I think one of the very important or two important clauses that most actors don't notice, because truthfully, except if you have a lawyer, they just go through, these are dates you're needed on set, this rehearsal, this photo shoot, this is the total fee we're paying you, this is your total time, and they're good. So most times they don't get to understand or notice the marketing and promotion clause, that certain weeks, depending on your hierarchy in the cast list, and depending on if you're a major or minor cast, certain weeks after the project or after the project has been released, you need to actively do this. It's more like you're back on the employment of the company. There's a proper, my company can go mad on PR. There's a proper strategy for you. Like, this day one, day two, day three, day two, every what they are supposed to do. So sometimes the people that are not used to it, some of the guys that are like big in the industry, they already know what's up, don't have any issue. But some of these newcomers, when they see, they're like, oh, I thought I'm done with this project. No, it's out. It's time to promote it. So most times they don't notice that. Another thing that I think they don't notice is, for example, I don't know if all production companies do that, but I know major production companies do that, to include clauses saying that you cannot change your appearances or do certain things to your appearance while you're in an active project. So let's say, for example, normally the contracts, most of them, this is not me signifying to how certain companies contracts are, but most times contracts are not exclusive. So you have actors that can be on 3 sets or 2 sets. We're just saying first priority, you have to be here when we need you. You have to prioritize us. So imagine a situation where you take another job, and in this job you're not supposed to have mustache, and the other one you're supposed, or maybe you have mustache on a normal day and it's good, but this other one you have to shave all of them, and then you forget and you shave all of them.
Wow.
So that appearance,
that's amazing. That's
a lot of
insightful.
people don't get to notice that. Now, 2 points or 2 clauses that I've seen certain actors include that I feel could be beneficial for other actors, especially depending on your pedigree and where you've got into the industry. One is some of them actually negotiate or insist on the positioning of their name on the
flyer,
credit
promotion.
Promotion materials, flyers, everything. My name has to be there. My picture has to be there.
That's standard though.
No, it's not. It's not standard. So out of the main cast, depending on type of movie, if it's like a family movie, they could have like major family on the flyer. But if it's like all these trailers or just focusing on 2 or 3 people, it's just those 2 or 3 people that are there. But it could be a major cast. Just that. So you can insist that, okay, one promotion material has to at least show me, has my name on it. My name has to be here, my title, main title or not, and all that. Now, mind you, it's not you say it and the company has to. Most times, all of this are at discretion of the company. But depending on how big you are in the industry, this is something that you could negotiate with the company that I've seen happen. Then another thing is welfare of actors. So a lot of actors just assume that, number one, it depends. If you've worked with a lot of major production companies, they just assume that the welfare has to be taken care of. Hotel will be gotten for them, their feeding, their transportation will be taken care of. So it's more like, oh, how far you not come on set? You're like, oh, you would not tell me the hotel I'm sleeping in. You guys never checked me in. And that's not the case. Therefore, those people that are already used to, that have been in the industry for a long time, that are used to the old Nollywood system, will practically fly from wherever they are and come and meet you and shoot for how much money and then go home, and they are cool with it. So depending on the budget of the movie, depending on type of movie, depending on production company, you could find a way to make your commute, the job, you working on the project easier for you. So we've had in the past actors that could ask, okay, is there location being made available? And if there's no location being made available, that could reflect on the whole late coming clause, because most contracts do have a late coming clause where if you're late by some certain hours, they start deducting your fee. Do you get? So if you're staying very far and they are not making arrangement for hotel, then indirectly you need to negotiate that particular clause in a way that it fits you or it to be okay for everybody. Do you get? If not, it has to be agreed. Maybe you get a hotel and they can pay certain bills for you. Some production companies will lodge all the main cast, provided together with the crew or different from the crew. There's transportation, there's food on set. So all those welfare, okay, while you're on set, can you bring your assistants? Some is a closed set, you can't bring anybody from outside. But if you don't know this, you start having issue on the day you're supposed to be on set. Oh, my assistant is supposed to come with me, she cannot go anywhere, I'm not going to. And that will be an issue. So those are certain clauses that...
Those are super insightful. And when I said isn't that standard, I meant that shouldn't people already know? But I think a lot of times knowledge is power. And if we don't know stuff, then we end up leaving stuff on the table.
And then again, it depends on... So we all understand that we are in one Nollywood, but there are different levels. So it depends on where you've been. So I don't say... I'm going to say, you've been at Asaba Nollywood for a long time, and then you're moving to the major players. There are certain things, just because you're looking for the opportunity, there are certain things that you let slip by, or you not know that those people that have been on this level all this while are actually enjoying this, and you could ask for this and you could actually negotiate this. So that's where that comes in. But you see those guys that have been up there for a while, They know what's up.
Yeah, and that's why people they need lawyers like you, right? Look at me hyping you. Now, I want to talk a bit about story rights, right, and why it's important. I'm sure you've seen the feedback that people have, not feedback, comments around Linda Cage's Dark October. And I think a lot of the issues centered around that she didn't allegedly get consent or didn't consult with the parents of the deceased children. And some people mentioned that, well, it's a public story, right? So why does she require consent? Can you speak about that, and why is it important, or is it even important if the story is in the public domain? Does the filmmaker need to consult with either the subjects or the family of the late subjects in this situation?
Yeah. So generally, if the subject is dead and you're sticking to information that the public knows, like you're not going to the family or going to close family friend to get information that is hidden, it's public information. It's just that you decided to make it into a movie. You consulting with the family is just at your own goodwill. You're not supposed to. Now, I think there was a project that I handled independently, and then by the time the producers put out word that, we're making this into a movie, the family reached out to me. I was like, can we get to this? You need to speak to us first. And we were like, okay, we can set it up, but there was a bit back and forth and we couldn't set it up. And then family step friend up, you cannot do this story with that. Or like, we actually can.
Yeah.
The fact that we agreed to like sit down with you is like, let everybody be happy. So when the movie exactly cuts, so in case the production come out, there will not be any bad blood. Everybody can promote it and be happy. Because if it's promoted in unison, it's more money that will be made. So you're not obligated to. Now, if the information you're getting has to do with, like, you have to go to the family and get some certain information that involve family members are still alive, then you need to actually inform them. It's like release forms. You need to clear with those ones that are alive or clear with those certain information that is not in public domain. Say, for example, you want to talk about someone that police killed, and then in process of you doing that, you found out that, back at home, the guy is a cultist, but nobody knew. Or maybe the guy is gay, but nobody knew. And you have an angle that you want to explore that story on, focused on that. And once you start digging into that, it's going to open a lot of unknown information. And you found out, you need to actually speak to them about it, because it's the son story. No, so general rule is, if you're alive, you need to come to you to take permission. If you're dead and it's public information, you can shoot the movie. You can do the production.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't think she did anything?
So
you can choose not to answer that.
I'll just
from a legal perspective.
I'm not answering from a legal perspective. Okay. I'm not going to talk about this as an individual, as a human being, as a consumer, and this me being sentimental. So it's a sad story, and no matter how much you want to paint it, it's a story that I believe even the family won't forget. So you doing that without speaking to them about it, it's like someone opening up old ones and traumas that you have, and you have to relive it all over again when you're trying to move on with your life. So it's not, my belief is that it's not all stories that must be told. That just some stories are too hard to be told, especially when the time between when it happened and now has not been so far apart. If it's like a time where, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, maybe after the uncles and the fathers and mothers have all died, and maybe it's just generation that has basic knowledge and you're trying to inform them and tell them this happened, everybody be careful, that would be a different situation. But they're still alive and you don't have their consent. Really, they need to be comfortable with it. This is me just speaking as a human being and being sentimental. They need to be okay with it for you to tell the story of their kids and have them relive that trauma all over again.
Yeah. That makes sense. And for people who don't know what Dark October is, it's a Nigerian film about the real life. It was a Nigerian real life film, which is a real life story of four young men, boys, who were lynched to death because they were falsely accused of stealing money. So, I mean, I totally.
It's still fresh. I can remember when it happened. So when I saw it was mixed emotions about it, but then it's out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, lesson learned, and thank you for the insightful information. Yeah. Now, you're the author of Let's Dance. I want to get this right. It's a guide to making money, managing intellectual property, and understanding the issues in the dance industry. Can you talk a bit about the book? Because I know you used to be a dancer, but what made you want to write this book?
Okay, I'll be as sincere as, I don't know what that sincerity is going to cost me, but I'll be very sincere. I didn't have plans of writing that book. I was just going to write an article. So I had a friend, or I have a friend. I have a lot of friends like within academies. My mom is a lecturer, so she has always been pushing me to write. But that aside, during COVID, I had friends that were writing articles, and one of them was like, "Okay, so you know entertainment law practice. Leave the whole online content creation. Write articles that people can actually read, something that can be documented. In case tomorrow Instagram shut down, you still have proof that okay, this information is out there." I was like, "Okay, fine. I'm going to write on the dance industry." So when I picked it up because there were not a lot of people talking. There was nobody talking about it. So I was like, okay, music is already overflogged. Art, to an extent, I say I have like my gray areas with art. So I was like, let me not speak so much and then expose my ignorance about that area. So I was like, let me go into an area that I understand from both perspectives, being a lawyer and being a former dancer. So I said it as an article. Now, the more I researched about it, especially learning the international standings and the laws and everything, and then seeing what we have here, I was just provoked to write a book. Like, I was just going, I said like from middle of the book to the end to the front. So I was just randomly putting together chapters till the book came on. So I think still during that COVID or before COVID, I'm not really sure of the time. There was this dancer, she's Nigerian born, but she's based, I think I'd be UK born, but Nigerian. She's from Benin. Easy. She came out online. I was like kind of ranting that a certain, it has passed, so I'm not going to try and mention the artist, but a certain female artist employed her to do choreography, and then credit wasn't given. She was not paid well enough or something like that. Welfare wasn't really taken care of. Her people had injuries. There was no insurance, hospital, and all of that. And then a lot of people are like, really, it's not just dance. What do people want? And then I realized that people don't understand what goes into dancing. Like, a lot goes into it. It literally breaks your body, your bone, your soul to do it. So first of all, people see that, I can dance, it's all fun and all of that. But when it crosses over to coming out with an entire routine, a choreography for a show, for a music video, is a lot. So I could relate to what she was talking about. So at first, when I saw that, I just saved the video. I was like, I'm going to come back and do my research on what legal standings and legal laws and what the law says about dance. And then I moved on. And during COVID, this one I'm going to mention because it's not Nigerian. When Beyonce's Lion King.
Okay, go ahead. Let me let you go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So there was this dancer, Georgina, also.
Okay, no.
That came online. I was talking about how she was part of the dancers, and they never told them that it was for a movie. It's not. Was it Lion King or something King? Black King or something?
Black is King.
Black is King. That they never told them it's for a movie, that they told them that they are just shooting for a music video, and because of it, they didn't negotiate high enough fees and certain things, this, that. So she was asking that, okay, lawyers should please, like, if there are lawyers around that knows how to deal with this. So I spoke with her. She gave me some of the inside gist, which I cannot say because it's not like in general public, about the whole thing. But I think in the process, they settled outside court because at some point she was like, oh, we've settled, there's no need for noise. But that also sparked the interest again. I was like, I went back to the video because I saved Izzy's own video. I went back to it and I watched it. I was like, okay, so we have welfare, we have credit is somehow linked to intellectual property, we have insurance, welfare, then we have you paying enough. I'm like, okay, I might not be able to talk so much about payment part because when I was a dancer, it wasn't like we are just going into that phase where we are being paid to dance and perform. When I took a step back, I was already entering my final year. This was happening in the town my parents lived in, so I didn't want to be on one big stage and someone that knows my father will not call you and be like, oh, I thought your daughter is studying law, what she did? So that was like my major reason. So I was like, okay, it's time to hang the boot, just focus on your final year, graduate, and then if down the line you feel you want to do this on a professional, I never considered it on a professional level, but in case you want to, then you can always come back to it. So I was like, I can't speak so much about payment parts, but part I can speak on are these other areas. So I started reaching out to certain dancers. So within that period, I don't know what happened, but somehow I got linked to Kafi, the dancer. Yeah. And I think someone made a comment about her and I defended her. unconsciously, she liked it and followed me. I followed her back. Then I sent her a DM. So I told her, I was doing this research on this, and I asked her a few questions. She answered. I went back to Easy. So I just asked a few dancers that are like into it professionally now, different things, still having my knowledge of how dance was back then, certain issues we had to deal with, even if you're being paid proper welfare, like sometimes water and food is not being provided for you guys. Obviously accommodation is not a big deal because I was coming from school to go and perform and all that. So when I finished getting the basic information about what was going on to an extent in the industry, I was like, okay, now let me do my research. So initially I was just going to write an article about why dance and intellectual property in dance have to be taken seriously in Nigeria. And then in the process I was like, okay, I could actually take this deeper. So while I was doing it, before I wrote the book, I had a series for dancers. I don't know that a lot of people knew that, but I had like an email series for dancers where dancers signed up. So it was a free consultation with them, getting free materials from me. And in that process I got to hear from
their stories, what
their issues were. So I was able to like segment it. This has to be talked about, this has to be talked about, this has to be talked about. So the issues. And then that was when this game.
Okay, Mister.
There's this game, I'm trying to remember, I literally called the name this morning. There's this game that a lot of dancers abroad we are suing.
Fortnite?
Yes, for the dance. So in the process of me researching, I said, I was like, beautiful, there's someone being taken to court for this, so I could hinge on this. Do you understand? Say that this is actually not theory, this is practice and all that. So I started researching on it. I started putting out, like writing the book small and all of that. Issues were around copyright. Around copyright wasn't like a big deal for dancers, but then when I spoke to them, it was more like, so understanding you have a copyright, obviously you can't tell a music movie director or someone that I want to retain my copyright in dance. No, when you're doing that. But then if you're going to sign it over to them, that should affect your fee. You're not just giving them fee for you dance. It's not your fee plus assignment of your rights.
Yeah, because it's interesting, like you said about that Beyonce thing, and I don't know if you know her. I think her choreographer Jacquel Knight. He copyrighted his Single Ladies, because he's the one behind Single Ladies. And if there's an article on Billboard that came out like 2020 during COVID, which is why I was like, is that what you're talking about? And it was super insightful, like the whole process of how he went about it. Have you seen?
I think I read it briefly.
In past, I'm going to share it with you. I just thought it was fascinating. Just like the whole process of how he's copywriting it, and then eventually he wants to license it, because he's like, why would music producers be making money on the back end, and as a choreographer you're not making it? And you had mentioned that you wanted to get, your purpose of writing the book was you want to get African choreographers to look deeply into intellectual property in the dance industry. Can you share 2 tips that a dancer should be looking out for? Maybe when you're contracted, should you insist on a contract? What did they say? Contract. How do you go about that? So if you just maybe share 1 or 2 tips.
So contract part, we obviously know Nigerians are not really big fans of contract, but
we are when it comes to international, but just with ourselves. Can we just make that clear?
With ourselves, we'll be like, we're friends now. We know.
Do you understand? I'm just like,
meet
why?
Back then, just
sorry, go on.
Then when I was speaking to dancers, I kind of devised a means that if the person that is employing your services don't want a contract, you could actually pass your terms to them and then have it binding, including your invoice. Now, the issue is that before, when I was speaking to them, I realized that a lot of dancers except those that already had international exposure, a lot of them were still treating it as, it's a hobby that make money from. It's a hobby that makes money from me. Why I have a proper 9 to 5? I have a proper business, so it's no big deal. Davido called me to dance. He's paying me this amount of money, I'll dance, and that is it. But then a few that understood that it was business already had invoices. So I was like, you see those terms that you want, impute it in your invoice. I'm not even insisting that you must tell them I want to retain my intellectual property. I don't think we're there yet. It's a thing of, let's all acknowledge the fact that there's copyright that exists first. And when we get to that stage of first accepting dancers to be proper professionals in the entertainment industry and the fact that they have rights, then we can now start talking about, should we protect those rights? Should they license those rights? Should they exploit those rights? So you could include it in invoice that, these are terms for copyright, for assignment of copyright, an extra amount of money, welfare, your dancers has to be taken care of at this point. Sets cannot close 8. If any set that is above 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., accommodation and transportation. Because we had issues. I think I've forgotten who gave me the story, but we had issues where dancers were stranded on the road and nobody even cared to check up on them. So these are things that you could put in your invoice. If you put it in fine prints and they don't see it, perfect.
But I keep on saying that it really breaks my heart how we accept international standards when it comes to foreigners. But when our Nigerian brothers or African brothers are insisting on certain standards, we say, who are you to? And it just drives me mad. Like
It's modern slavery.
Yeah. The self-loathing we have.
It still comes back to that. We always feel that the white guys or the foreigners know more than us. Sometimes they could be wrong. But when we see they're wrong, we're like, oh, this is a new right.
It's just,
so if they bring documents, oh, we must sign. Seriously, we're signing.
I'm just like, a
lot of issues most of our A-list artists had at first when the likes of Sonny and all of these big guys were coming in because they were not reading the fine prints. They were so excited about, international parties were involved in the entertainment industry and they were just signing on everything. So I think everything is a phase for us. We're getting to that point where it's a slow phase. We're getting to that point where we could say, okay, yes, I need a contract for this before I disburse funds. I need a contract for this before I actually start working.
I mean, you even with the dance, because I love dance and I love choreographers, which is why, like, when I saw that you had written, I was like, oh my God, because you see in the States, you have a lot of black creators that are not being credited for their dances, So I just, when I saw that, I was like, that's amazing, and I want to talk to her about that, because I think that people think that, like you said, it's dance. What is the big deal? Like, you can't make money from it, but if you're
there are dancers that who cannot, if they don't do, bring someone else that can dance on stage. And that's why I'm not trying to spoil anybody's hustle, but you see some people, rather than they pay a proper choreographer to do a dance routine for their dance videos, they go on street, pick boys, play the music and have them dance, and they video it, and that is it. Those boys are happy. They're in an artist video. They post it up. They didn't give them credit for shimbang. They did not say dancers, chuku and meke this one. They did not say anything. No credit. Some of them, they might even probably give them 5K or 10K or give them food. And they're happy.
I think, go ahead.
And that's, in a way, they now see it as a way to treat dancers. They're not serious. They're just dancers. If they're dancing for fun. I'm not singing for fun.
I think that I was about to say that it's been spiritual revival in this country. We're just drinking only water. Because the way we treat each other, it just drives me mad. But I don't want to rant, because I know you have to go. Now, as we move on to the fun random questions, I want to ask you to talk about your Dear Creator podcast and Legal Avenue podcast. Can you talk a bit about those two different podcasts?
So it was COVID. Dear Creators podcast was COVID. COVID left us with a lot of time in our hands and nothing to do. And I was home. I was quarantining with my parents, my family. It was driving me nuts because it's been a long time that all of us, we are together in one house and seeing each other, not having to go out and have a break from each other. So I think I saw it as a pathway for me to like still put out content. And again, a lot of things were happening online. You needed to be on Instagram to join in the conversation. So I was like, okay, let me start a podcast that if you don't have Instagram, if you don't want to go online, if you're trying to purge yourself social media wise, you can actually go on AudioMac, go on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any platform, and listen to it. So I literally started recording it in my house. And the whole idea for Dear Creators podcast, which I really hope I continue to.
I was about to say that, Amanda. But go ahead.
The main idea for it was tell stories that had happened to my clients. These guys, obviously, I can't say, oh, Mr. A didn't know. But like, oh, certain person, and then give you real life stories or what's happening. Because when I said that first, I had a client, I think I'm on my first client, she signed a contract of 13 years. She had no idea. And when I was trying to get out of the contract, her boss said, oh, there's nothing like entertainment law. Are you sure that lawyer even passed law school?
13 years.
13 years. That's what she signed. So I think that and other stories that I heard during the consulting period, because when I put out free consultation, a lot of people came through. So I heard a lot of things. So I was like, okay, let me put out the story. So the outline of the podcast was tell the story, say what's wrong. So how we break down law questions in school. Tell the story, tell them what's wrong, and then what you should do and how to move forward. So that was the whole idea. I think I got up to 5 episodes out, and then while I started it, and I started the book, They were not contradicting each other. And as I was wrapping up the book, I got the EbonyLife work. I moved from Enugu to Lagos. So everything was just happening so fast, and I never had time to like, okay, sit down and think back. And then the moment I started thinking about going back to the Creators podcast, I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I need a co-host. I can't do this on my own, because me on my own, I don't say I'm a laid back person, but I'm a chilled person. So most times I always pick relaxation over stressing myself, especially if it's something that no other person is depending on me for. If it's a job and I have my clients pending, I can stress myself. But when I know it's me, and me, I can always say, I will do it tomorrow. Let me watch TV. Let me sleep. Let me rest. So I needed someone that will push me, remind me, we needed to create content. We need to do this. You're doing podcasts on your own. Trust me. Kudos, because it's not easy to do it on your own. So many times you don't want to quit. You just say, let's take small break, and that is it. Otilo, it's gone.
Yeah.
And that's the end. So when I started saying, okay, I was considering Lola back then, because we were like, what are we going to do? Very strangely, we met via DM. I just sent her a DM. I'm in Lagos, I'm an entertainment lawyer, we're same set, law school, a court bar. Is it possible for us to meet? And she replied me in less than an hour, and that's how we met. And the beautiful friendship blossom.
That's amazing. And I hope go ahead.
When I was thinking about it, I didn't know she was thinking about something like that she wanted to do a podcast, but at the same time she needed a co-host. So literally, before she beat me to it, before I could ask her if she could be my co-host, she reached out to me. I was like, that she's thinking that we should do a podcast or something, like not really like online, leave Instagram, like do something outside Instagram, a podcast or maybe events, something. So I was like, okay, I could. So at first I was like, should I play cool? I'm not actually thinking about this. And then we now had like a business meeting, met up, had lunch. And I was like, sincerely, I was already considering this. I was like, I already have a podcast. So she was like considering what she was proposing was a different approach. She wanted us to look at law on a wider spectrum, not just entertainment law. So I was like, okay, because of that, I can't do Dear Creators. Dear Creators is specifically for creators, entertainers, people within the creative space. So we now said, okay, fine. Since we're doing this, we could leave Dear Creators on its own and then form a new podcast. So that was how Legal Avenue podcast.
Now, to your point about, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so how, before we go on to the fun random questions, I want to just ask your thoughts when it comes to, I don't know if you heard about it, how people are upset with whether you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're an engineer, who are using their clients as examples on social media. And people are like, why are you exposing that person? Even if you say it's person A. But people say that for people who know that person, they can connect the dots. So when you talked about Dear Creator podcast and you're talking about, what they've gone through, do they have an issue with that?
So the thing is, for example, for the podcast, I reached out to a few people. I was like, this could come up. I'm not using your name. It's just when you hear story, and for them, they were excited. Because they're like, I want these people to learn from this. But generally, we know that there's the attorney-client privileges and communication and certain things you can say. So I personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with using an example. It's an experience of yours. But definitely, when it's still so fresh, there's some gist that's so fresh that no matter how you mask it as example, people will know who you're talking about. Give it time. Let it rest. Let it settle. Maybe so someone like me now, if I want to start using informations I know to teach people, this 2023, I'm going to go back to 2019 and pick information from 2019. Prior people have moved on from it. Or even mix it up. You must not give the fact as it is. You're using it as an example. So put in salt, pepper, cook it very well. So even when the person you're saying reads the story, it's like, this is me. But this didn't happen. I don't think this is me. So you can always keep it up. But when you make it so obvious, no matter, like I said, no matter how much you mask it, there's some gist that's still too fresh. They will know who you're talking about. Those ones are wrong.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to get your perspective. And it's interesting you say attorney-client privilege, and I was like, I didn't want to use all that heavy words, but
guys, between clients and attorney, you can tell your lawyer anytime your lawyer can't, except if it's been adding, but he can't say anything.
Exactly. All right, let's go on to the fun random questions. You ready? Are you ready? You guys say you're ready now. Okay, you're ready. You are ready in my books. All right, first question is, who's your favorite dancer or choreographer?
You should have sent me this
question.
But
you see, I told you, it's
Let
not...
me prepare. Guys, I love you all. Like this, I'm not playing favorites. If I don't answer, what will happen? Nothing, right?
Oh,
I
no, we
plead
can't.
the fifth.
It has to be answered.
I
We
can't-
can't plead the fifth. It's a simple question. Favorite dancer?
I have choreographers as clients. It's not be as if I like one more than the other.
Say, okay, just say all my clients. We move on to the next question.
All of them.
Okay.
You all are amazing.
You're all amazing.
You guys are great.
Okay. Second question is, what was the last book that you read?
No, a law book.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, so the last book I read was a reread, Sha. I reread The Wait by Devon Franklin and Megan Good.
Okay.
I know they are separated, but I love the book.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, just because something doesn't work, it doesn't mean that the message is not
Exactly.
valid. Yeah.
So I needed it for a particular stage in my life, and it was all on delayed gratification. Oh, you could have to lay blogs and not. So yeah.
That's awesome. I haven't read that book. I heard it's a
It's
good
a
book.
relationship book.
Yeah, no, I know.
I picked that part from it. I left the relationship side.
Well, I heard it's a really good book.
Yeah,
All
it
right.
is.
Okay, third question is, if you had the opportunity to japa to one of the following countries,
Okay.
which one are you picking? Ghana, Switzerland, or Rwanda?
2 are African.
I know.
1 is outside Africa. I
Wait.
don't understand.
Wait.
Is that a question?
Well, I heard that Rwanda. Oh, I know. I heard. I have been to Rwanda.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it is. But I repeat, 2 are Africans, and 1 is
It's an African podcast. We have to support, we have to support each other.
okay. Off camera.
Oh, yeah. Is it okay?
But Rwanda, I'm coming to you.
Okay. All right. Rwanda it is. Fourth question is, what are 2 things that people do not know about you?
My family members are gonna chase me for this. So, number 1 is a lot of people see me as, very out there, very serious, very hardworking. But trust me, I just want to rest. I just want to sleep.
Me too. Me too. As I was coming here today, I said, let me just call Amanda and cancel.
Do you
But I
know how
said
many
that.
times-
Yeah.
Do you know how many times almost if your text message didn't come in this
Ha!
morning, I would have seen it as a sign from God.
Oh my God. Thank God I
When your
texted you.
text message came in and I went to LinkedIn, I was like, oh, shoot. I was really excited.
You know, I
that
kind of
she said
figured.
it.
Because I was like, I haven't heard from her. So I was like, let me just text her early in the morning. Thank God I did.
Thank God you did. If not,
Yeah.
with the rain that fell this morning.
Yes, you
I
supposed to
would
lay
have
in bed and rest.
slept.
So I feel you. So you want
Yeah.
to rest.
So that's 1. 2, second thing that people don't know about me. I think I've said this before, but if I was not a lawyer, I'd be an actor, an actress. Me and film industry we have.
But you never know. Like life
like
is still,
this. I know I'm not.
you're not gonna.
I know.
Yeah.
I like where I am.
I still have this dream that I'm
I
gonna be an
help
actor
them.
someday in my life.
Please.
Yeah.
And when you do, I should be a lawyer.
You will.
Yes.
Because like all the contracts and the clause hey.
You need me.
Exactly.
You need
I can't
me.
go enter one chance.
you can't now, you're a lawyer, but
I
still
know, but
you need me.
do you understand? Because you can be a lawyer, you can be a corporate lawyer.
Yeah.
But if you don't know the basics of entertainment, it's different categories.
I tell
of,
people that being an entertainment lawyer is 80% knowing the industry and 20% about being a lawyer.
Exactly.
Being a lawyer is okay. But trust me, even the entertainers, people in the industry, I don't say they don't like lawyers, but they don't like lawyers that too loyally. So you need to be able to,
Relate.
you need to be a creator like that. You need to wear rib chains once in a while, colored hair. If have you not noticed, male entertainment lawyers, dreads, piercing, is our own
blending in.
is our own dress code.
And then you now strike them. All right. Final question is, if you had the opportunity to do life over, what is one skill or gift that you'd make sure that you had or that you have?
Yeah, I think probably coding.
Coding.
Yeah, I'm always, if truthfully I was being prepped for science class. Law, that's why to an extent I had to take that break to figure out what I wanted. Law was kind of a spot on moment thing because my parents thought I was going to study medicine, and then got to a stage where I needed to talk about guidance and counselors and all that, and I realized I didn't like blood, I didn't like hospitals, so I needed to be realistic about what I wanted. And next best thing I wanted going to was computer engineering.
Yeah.
But then they said I must do TD, so I was like, bye. And I moved to art class.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted to be an actress, so let me enter art class. Entered art class not for law, to be an actress,
Yeah.
but then law still came off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think coding, definitely. And I've been a badass. coder.
Okay.
If that's a word.
Well, that's great. I love that. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Now, any last words before we wrap it up?
For who?
For the audience, for the listeners.
For which of them?
I don't understand. Just the last word.
Entertainers.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. I
Students,
see your point. Okay.
you.
For people in the creative industry.
Okay.
And that obviously that includes actors and so yeah, people in the creative industry, creatives and entertainers. Since that's your focus, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do that.
I think the last word, I've mentioned this before, but in as much as you don't like it, see yourself as a product. As some people have cracked that. See yourself as a business. Don't be sentimental. When I say entertainers or artists can be emotional, I wasn't saying it like, oh, don't have emotions. No, I'm saying it that they can get sentimental about certain things. You want to do a business and then you hear, oh, it's my friend, I trust him. It's business. Leave sentiment aside. We're still friends, but don't mix the both. So I think the general thing I would say is treat yourself as a business. Treat yourself as a product. Take yourself seriously. However you think a product should act. Protecting their rights, protecting their work, improving on their work, do all of that. And have a good team. Don't have people that will lie to you. Have a good team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for people who want to keep up with the work that you're doing, whether it's your nuggets, because I know that you do something about Mentor with Mandy.
Yes.
I just mentioned that.
Yes.
But if you want to talk about that quickly, and then how can people keep in touch with the work that you do?
Okay, so my Fosa said something. We had OAU together and she said her desire is like everybody needs to find their goal, their purpose in life, their dream, what they want. So we're all in entertainment industry. There's some people that their goal and their purpose is to be the best entertainment lawyer there is. Mine is to raise as much entertainment lawyers as I can, like proper entertainment lawyers as I can, which is what bettered the whole mentorship with Mandy. And then the idea behind is that I don't have any major regrets in my journey, but there are certain things that I wish that I did that would have probably made the journey smoother and made it a bit faster. It was fast, but a bit faster and smoother. So that is my own purpose to an extent. Lord, you can always send new purposes, but that's my own purpose to an extent, and that's why I stayed doing that. So I haven't been so active at it, but at the same time, whenever I have any students reach out to me via DM, Instagram, or LinkedIn, and maybe ask for help or ask for advice, I always try to. If there are conferences I could speak at or go to schools, I always find a way to mix both of them to work, no matter how much it stress me, because that is it. I want students, I want people that are in university, I want people that are coming out from law school to know that, okay, if you have interest in this area of law, you can do it. There are systems waiting for you.
Yeah.
Most of us, trust me, older lawyers have been there before myself, Yemisi, Fosa, Akemi Law, they've broken their back to make it easier for us. The same way my own set, my own people, they are doing it to make it easier for the next person. So I didn't know about entertainment law when I was in university. There's no reason why you should not in this present age. So that's the whole entire idea behind the whole mentorship program.
That's great. And for people who want to keep up with the work that you do, how can you do that? IG. Now, what's the name?
Come
IG.
to Instagram, baby. My handles across all social media platforms is at Amanda Uzoagba.
Okay, Mandy.
So my name, but instead of Amanda, Mandy.
Mandy Uzoagba.
Yes.
All right.
So that's it across all platforms.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
That's awesome. Before I go, you can check out the podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at TheSNCPodcast. And of course, you can check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Shade Nonconform. Thank you so much.